Let's begin in a cross-legged position. So any variation that you can make yourself comfortable in just for a minute. Let's take this time to fully arrive on the mat. We've got our intention with us. We know the areas we'll be working with. We know the focus of this practice. You can start consciously deepening and lengthening your breath. Feeling the weight of the body on the mat. Feeling where your legs are in contact with the mat. Softening your face and dropping your shoulders down. Just sit here quietly for a few moments. Breathing in and out through the nose. Let's take 3 deep breaths now, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Inhale and exhale, side out. And one more, inhale and exhale, breathe out. Last one, inhale and exhale, side out. Perfect. So let's get into our first posture of our yin part of the class, and it is the reclined butterfly. So what we know as supine Baddha Konasana. So we're going to need to move onto our spine, bring the soles of the feet together and drop down. So you have options at this stage already. So option 1, if you have a block, you can place it between your shoulder blades, and this way we are also incorporating a bit of a shoulder stretch and a chest opener as much as the inner groin stretch. So that's optional, you don't have to do it. You can just stay as you are. And then option 2, if you have a particular tightness in your hips and you know that your knees are quite high in the air, you're welcome to place blocks under your thighs. So I'll just demonstrate. So you can go on a high setting like this, maybe even like that if you're feeling super tight. Maybe it's just a small prompt here. So this way you just don't have to resist against the pose too much. So let's begin to settle in. We're here for 3 minutes. Most of our holds today are 3 minutes long. We do have some 5-minute poses. So usually we go by the rule of taking about a minute to settle in, do all the adjustments, finding your edge between too much sensation and not enough. And then resolve to be still. And then hold the pose. We're trying to keep everything else relaxed that's not involved. So softening the face, shoulders are softly on the floor, the hands are relaxed. On the next inhale, let's bring the knees together and hook them into your chest. So staying on our backs, let's move into our first big hamstring stretch. So you will need your strap for this one, or an equivalent of the strap. Going to start with the right side. So it's the hamstring stretch that we always do in class. So there's nothing new here except for the duration of the hold. So get your strap around the foot. And the time starts now. We're going to do 5-minute holds for all of the hamstring stretches. So don't push yourself too far too quickly. You can start with your left knee bent. And yin, it's all about softening rather than resisting in the pose. So if your right leg just wants to bend a little bit, if straightening it is too much, if it's particularly tight, then micro bend in the knee. It's not going to reduce the benefits of the pose at all. And then try not use your arms fully either. So find that softness, that fluidity in the arm, so you're not just rigid when you're holding the strap. Try and pull the shoulders away from the ears towards the floor. And then if that feels good, you can straighten your left leg as well. And then you can start closing the eyes. Relaxing and releasing. This whole sequence is built to target the fascia around the hips and the legs, the tissues, the joints, to improve overall flexibility. So we know this big hamstring stretch just opens the entire leg from your ankle to your sit bone. Continuing to breathe. And I'll leave you in silence. We're about halfway there, so just notice if you started fidgeting and moving. And if you have, just ease back into the position where you can be as still as you can. Continuing to breathe. If you can go a little farther, then you can go a little bit closer with your foot to the face. Last deep breath in, breath out. And we're going to change and open to the side. So at this point, you can start also using your props. So if you know that your leg is too high in the air, say if you are somewhere here, you can use a block under, and this way, again, you're just not resisting that much against the pose. So make sure you are balancing on that sensation around 45 on a scale of 0 to 10. So you don't want to push yourself any higher. So choose somewhere you can be still. If you can have the leg on the floor and the leg is straight, that's wonderful, stay there. If again you feel that there's too much pull on the hamstrings in both legs, you can micro bend both of them. The whole idea of yin is that you just stop resisting. It's more about surrender, and it's more about making those edges less rough so we can round a bit more. We don't have to be entirely perfect in our shaping. It can be a bit more fluid, a bit more soft. And just check that you've not twisted your hips to the right to follow the leg. Try move both sit bones back to the floor. Left hand can rest on your left hip bone, or maybe you want to stretch it out to the side. And again, eyes closed. Bringing your awareness within. Having this dialogue with your body and your mind. We're about halfway through, so again, just notice if you've become stiffer in some areas, if some parts are beginning to tense, and if they do, then ease out, maybe just back off slightly. But don't run away from the sensation when it starts building up. You can observe it without giving it any judgment. Perfect. We've got 3 more deep breaths in and out through the nose. And last one, inhale. Exhale through the nose. Perfect. And then slowly you can bend the right knee. Pull it back to center, straighten the leg. And let's move to the right side. So shifting into the outer hip and the outer leg into the IT bend. So let's move our hips to the right. And then without rolling your hips and stacking them, you literally just cross that right leg over the left and hold. And then you can try and think about bringing that foot closer to your face. And you can hover over the floor. Again, here you can think of some structures to support yourself. So you can use a block if this is becoming too strenuous. So you can place that leg on the block. So whatever will help you make this more manageable to hold on for 5 minutes. Using all of the props is not a sign of weakness at all. It's just something that will help you fidget less and help you relax more in the pose. Right arm can rest down to the side, or maybe you just hold it on top of your right hip bone. Hatha Yoga, we always keep our feet flexed. In Yin Yoga, you don't have to flex them all the way. They can be half relaxed. Try to fight less and give in more. Notice if you're still breathing deeply and evenly. We're at our halfway through mark. So again, just check in with the body. Check in if you're moving a lot. And if you are, then find somewhere where you can be more still. Noticing if your face is relaxed and if your shoulders are on the floor. This might be the hardest one out of 3. We've got about 1 more minute, so keep on breathing. Okay, and 3 more breaths in here before we switch. Another deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, side out. Wonderful. Okay, now taking the time, let's move back to center. Realign your hips. If you need to take any movements in between, you can go ahead. You can do the windscreen wiper movements. Stack your knees to the right and to the left. Okay, and now let's get going with the left side. So well done. We've got 5 minutes of the vertical stretch of the left leg. So now we can start observing the difference in the size of the body. So left leg up, right knee can start being bent. And then if that feels okay, you can straighten the leg. And the thing with hamstrings, the reason they're so stiff so quickly and that it just takes constant stretching is they are really big, strong muscles. They're used to those big, powerful movements, and they're just not really used to being stretched. So in this case, it's doing often and allowing time for the stretch. The first thing our body wants to do the moment you start stretching is to contract. That's the natural reaction. So stretching somewhere usually means, oh, it could be dangerous. So the first nervous reaction of the system is to contract whatever is stretching. But the more you do it, the more the system gets used to it. So whenever you start stretching, it doesn't switch that signal of panic on. And if you want to increase flexibility, yin is absolutely perfect. So you can just do these 3 stretches on both sides. Not necessarily 5 minutes, but you'll feel the benefits. And then if you're ready, you can straighten the back leg as well. And notice where you are. Did you find your edge? Are you balancing between too much and not enough? And when you are, stay there and hold. Notice if there's any shaking. And if there is, that means you've gone too far. So just back off. Don't want any shaking, burning, tingling, numbness, any of those things. Couple more rounds of breath before we open up. And last deep breath in through the nose, out through the nose. Okay, and you can bend the knee and get ready to move on to the side. I'm just going to reposition myself slightly. And let's open the leg to the left. Again, moving into this external rotation, into your inner thighs, into the groin. And as you settle into this side, you can also just check that your right leg is still straight and in line with your hip and with the right side of the chest. And then start thinking whether you can hold this position for 5 minutes like this, or you need some more props. If you need to bend either of the knees or both, then go ahead and just bend them slightly. And with the hamstrings, just remember that they get damaged easily, so don't ever push yourself too far. One of the most common injuries in yoga. The first time I did this yin sequence with 5-minute holds on each hamstring stretch, practically felt like I've grown a new pair of legs, almost like I was reborn. So I hope you are feeling similar. We're about halfway through on this side, so continuing to breathe and just assess if you are comfortable enough. If you can relax and close the eyes and just continue to breathe in and out without holding anything. I've got 1 more minute here. Last deep breath in through the nose, out through the nose. Okay, and let's slowly wiggle out of this position, getting ready to change into the final hamstring stretch on this side. So moving into the outer hip. So wiggle, and then start crossing your left leg over the right. Checking that your hips are still grounded. The sit bones are as close to the mat as they can. And then again, you're welcome to use some props here. You can use a block and a cushion on a block. If you have a bolster, you can have it underneath the foot. So take your time to settle in. Which might take you longer if you're a fidgety person, such as myself. And then let's find our stillness. Make a resolve to be as still as you can without being distracted by the textures, the noises. All of your awareness is on the body and the sensations, on the breath. Relaxing everything that's not in use. We've got 1 minute left. Check in with the body that nothing's tensing up. The jaw is unclenched. We've got 3 more breaths left on this side. So deep breath in through the nose, out through the nose. Repeat. And then let's bring the leg back up to center. Hug your knee to your chest, bending both knees. And then let's make our way onto the right side. So we're going to set ourselves for a dragon flying low, which in Hatha Yoga is known as lizard. Coming into some lunges, and we're going to stretch the front sides of the legs, getting into the hip flexors. So to set up, you will want a block or two nearby. You might need them. And then let's bring our right foot in front. Then walking your right foot to the edge of the mat. And check that your both wrists are underneath the shoulders. Try and sink lower, checking that your right shin is vertical. And let's start settling in. So option 1 is that you just stay here. Option 2, if you are ready, you can come onto your forearms. So starting to lean forward and lower down. And you can do this on a block, maybe on 2 blocks. If you have a bolster, you can do it on a bolster. If you feel quite open already, then you can come all the way down on the floor. But again, if that feels too much straight away, then back off and find somewhere where you can manage. So we had 5-minute holds for all hamstring stretches. Now we're just coming to 3 and 2. And in this one, we're holding a lot of body weight in the hips, with the idea that the gravity also helps us to lower down, increasing this mobility in the low body, in the hip flexors, in the inner groin. So allow the body to be heavy. And that's fine, stillness. So the poses are going to get more intense, but don't feel like you have to push yourself to your absolute limit. Use the props. You can also use props to support your forehead. You can place another block on top and rest your head down so you don't have to tense the neck. One more breath in and out. And we can start coming out. Time goes fast. So let's change sides. Sorry, no, before we change sides, we've got a half monkey here. So stay with your right leg and shuffle your right heel forward. Straightening the right leg if you can. If not, then you can bend the top knee. Keeping your left hip above the left knee. And then here, if you need the blocks to reach down towards the floor, then have the blocks. Checking that you're squaring the hips. And you can stay up high here with your spine nice and straight. Maybe you can just surrender down. So in Yin Yoga, we're not overly worried about keeping everything absolutely straight. We can allow the spine to round. We can be a little bit more lazy and easy. This is another big hamstring stretch. You can allow the eyes to close if you haven't already. And 3 more breaths in and out. Inhale. Exhale through the nose. 2 more like this. Inhale. Exhale. And last one. Inhale. Exhale. Beginning to slowly walk that right leg back. You can stretch it out, pointing the right heel away from you. And let's set up for the second side. So bringing your left foot forward, walking it to the outer edge of the mat. So you might start feeling the effects already. So take your time as you move around. Okay, and then you can stay here with your arms straight. Maybe just stay here for a minute before you lower down. Otherwise, you can come onto a block. Or if you feel ready and open, then all the way down onto the floor. And check that you're not dropping your knee to the side. We want to keep the whole sole of the foot pressed into the ground and the knees pointing upwards. Allowing this blood flow to arrive into the hips. And again, if you feel something's tensing too much, whether it's your low back or anywhere else, maybe you've gone too far. So the challenge is to just back away. Feeling the stressing of the joints, of the ligaments, of the tissue surrounding the muscles. And let's slowly come out, taking your time to reset for the half monkey. So walk your hips to stack over your right knee, popping your toes up to face towards you, checking that your hips are nice and square, pulling your right thigh forward, left thigh back. And then you can stay up here pretty high, resting on your blocks, reaching your spine up. And then the more flexibility you feel, you can lower the settings of the blocks, maybe remove them completely. Remember, if at any point it becomes too much sensation, remember to micro bend the knee to prevent you from any damage. Few more cycles of breath. I always thought yin practice would feel like it takes forever and that it could be boring, and then I was absolutely surprised by how fast it actually goes. I hope you're feeling the same. Last deep breath in, breath out. Let's begin to come out. You can start pointing that leg away from you, stretching both legs out. And then I've got two options for you. So option one will be front splits with the support. So don't get scared. We will actually just be sitting either on a block or on a bolster if you have it. If you resist to do splits entirely, your variation will be a caterpillar, or what we do know as Paschimottanasana. So I'll demonstrate Paschimottanasana if you're going to choose that. So in yin, you'll be holding it for 4 minutes. So you might want to sit up on a block, bend your knees around the spine and surrender down. You can also use a block in your variation. So you can rest the head down. So you'll be in something like this. If you are going to attempt a variation of the monkey with us, it'll only be 2-minute hold. We're going to go about it like this. So we're just essentially wanting to stretch the leg forward and then the back leg back. And then there isn't even a need for us to actually straighten the legs all the way. So we can just sit in something like this, okay? So this could be your monkey. We're here for 2 minutes. If you are lucky to have a bolster, then that's even better. So I will use that. So all you want is just to get this height for your right buttock to sit on in a way where you can then straighten your hips. Do it this way. There we go. Perfect. And then your left leg stays bent. And then you might have your hands on the waist. So if you are in splits, we're doing 2 minutes each side. Can go for more height. So use as many props as you have in the vicinity. There we go. Try and square your hips. And this is it. This is 2 minutes done on one side. So now very slowly shuffle to the other side. If you were in a caterpillar, stay there for 2 more minutes. This is our yin sequence peak pose, if you will. So now let's change sides. So left leg forward. And then back leg back. Takes a bit of wiggling into position. So do your best. Trying to re-square the hips. And it might look quite different to our usual splits when we see them on the internet or in Hatha Yoga. There we go. And remember, it's also morning, so don't expect to go all the way down. And you can have your hands on the waist, maybe hands in front of the chest. Allow the eyes to close. So I've got a question. Someone asks how you can do this without a bolster. So if you don't have a bolster, you can use lots of cushions, just lots of pillows. So stack your pillows. And as I said before, if you don't have a proper block, you can use a roll of toilet paper. That's the closest thing in terms of, or a Bible. That's the closest thing in terms of weight and structure. Perfect. So that was our 2 minutes in monkey on each side, or 4 minutes in caterpillar. So let's slowly come out. And we're just going to close with a little spinal twist before we break. So get yourself back down onto the floor. And let's just step the right leg over the left knee. Wiggle your hips to the right. Move your arms in cactus. Drop your knees to the left. And as much as a spinal twist, we also want for this pose to compensate for the leg stretches. So squeeze your thighs in here. Squeeze your thighs together. Couple of breaths. And then slowly inhale, return to center. Close your left knee over the right, wiggle your hips to the left, and stack the knees to the right. Head can move on to the left. Squeezing your inner thighs together. Let the stretch into the waist. And then come back with the knees to center. You can stay here in Shavasana